The safety, it's safe. It's great. It's a great place to raise children because it's a safe place. And then you have also great infrastructure in terms of health and education.
Mm.
This is very important. So it's an easy place to live.
Mm.
And I love the freedom here. I love the fact that you are free. I structured a health system, I structured education system. And this is what I like here in Australia. Everyone have access to those basic of life.
I'm Dr. CHAMONIX Blanche, ex-corporate and academical turned CEO and board member of several companies and mother of 4 little extraordinary kids. But it wasn't that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the know-how, and the time to focus on designing and really going after the life that I so wanted to live. A life of freedom, of fairness, and of being fair dinkum to who I really was and what I wanted to get out of this fleeting time that we have on Mother Earth. Fast forward to many lessons learned and moving halfway around the world to the most amazing country, you'll see the life that I now live. One that gives me more safety and freedom than I ever thought would be possible, and that really only existed as a daydream while I was living in South Africa. I created CHAMONIX TV to give you true spot advice on how you can also live a life in this amazing country, and so that you can see how another couple like us now live in Australia with 4 little kids here in Down Under. And I'll be providing you with step-by-step strategies so that you can make your Aussie dream a reality too. If you're a keen future Aussie who's looking to create a life that excites you and offers you safety, freedom, and opportunity, you have come to the right place, my friend. Welcome aboard.
Before we continue with the episode, I just quickly wanted to hop in here to let you know that Migration Made Easy, our signature and sought-after course, will be closing its doors very soon in the next few days. If you want to be part of the most comprehensive program, we will help you plan, apply for, and make the move to Australia as soon as possible, where we maximize your chances of actually making it over without struggling to know where to start, how to land that perfect job, and just what to do to come here. You need to be in on Migration Made Easy. We won't be opening the doors again for months. So if you want to be taken from zero to a migration hero, hop onto chamonixtv.com.au/now and make sure that you get in as soon as possible. All right, my friend, let's hop into the episode. Hi, Gizelle. How nice to see you today. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm well. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I am just really spoiled today because you're a very good friend of me, but you are also a migrant. So how long have you been in Australia for?
Well, look, I live in Australia now longer than what I lived in Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, so I moved to Australia in 1996. So what's the maths on that?
Lots.
Years. A long time. That's what I keep saying to people. How long have you been here? And I stopped giving numbers. I just say a long time.
Yes. Or give the start here, then they can work it out themselves.
Yes, 96. That's when I arrived.
And why did you decide to come to Australia? But you also went somewhere else in between.
Yes. Well, I first came to Australia. I convinced my parents that it was a good investment for my education to send me to Bondi Beach in the summer to study English, and they did. I did my Cambridge certificate. So I basically came to Australia to study English, but then one thing led to another. I started university, and then love happened, and then I'm still here.
And it's now, whatever the maths is, many years later.
8 years, yes.
Are you happy that you made the change?
It's so funny because when there was never a plan, moving to Australia migrating to Australia was never a plan. It was just the way things are. I was 21 when I arrived. So it was basically the way life developed. So it's not that I made the change. I allowed my life to develop in that way but I'm very happy. I love living in Australia. I love the people. I love the lifestyle, work ethics. It really suits me. But I never really lived my adult life in Brazil.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm happy with the life I have here. Yes.
And of course, all your family is still in Brazil.
My whole family is still in Brazil. I have 2 nephews and a niece that lives in Australia. But my parents, my brothers, cousins, everyone's in Brazil. We go to Brazil often. I have a 8-year-old son, and he's been to Brazil 5 times. So it's still very much part of my life, but my life is here.
Yeah. And do you speak Portuguese at home?
Well, my partner doesn't speak Portuguese. He's originally from New Zealand. But Otto and I do, and Otto does Portuguese classes with a Brazilian teacher that's in Brazil, but he does Zoom classes twice a week. And I was talking to my family this morning, and then we speak Portuguese.
And do you think he will be able to read Portuguese as well some stage, or are you happy for him to just continue speaking it?
Look, my main goal is for him to be able to communicate. So that's my main goal. So we do read. We read most nights when I'm not exhausted, but we try to often read, and Otto tries to read. So we read, but most of when he studies Portuguese is spoken.
Okay.
Which I'm okay with it. Maybe when he gets older, but for now, communicating for me is the most important thing.
Yeah. As you said, your partner is English. He's not, English speaking. He's not Portuguese. So it makes it a little bit harder for you as mum, the only one who speaks Portuguese, to try and keep it alive. But yeah, if you just keep going with it, that we speak Afrikaans at home.
Yes.
And it's a little bit easier for our kids because they continuously hear mum and dad speaking in Afrikaans, and we speak to our children in Afrikaans. So they get that constant feed.
Yeah, for me, I don't have that. For example, in dinner table, it end up happening all in English and also I'm not very disciplined. I could have been more disciplined in how much English I speak with Otto. But sometimes, I don't know, raising a bilingual child, okay, this is a very interesting thing when both parents don't speak the language, because I was always talking Portuguese with my son, but what was happening is we would come from school, I would get that much, and then the dad would get that much, because he wasn't telling me things in depth, because he couldn't, and then I wasn't. So I felt at some point I was losing connection.
Yes, very true.
So I also switched to English so I could get that deeper connection on what was happening in his life. So it's like it's an aspire. It's tough. It requires a lot of a commitment, and it's not as simple as people might think from the onset.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Very tricky. But you see, the beauty of Portuguese is that Portuguese is a very well-spoken language across the world. So, he should be able to travel in life at some point and go to your family in Brazil a lot.
I guess compared to African, yes.
Yeah.
But comparing like to Spanish, no.
Comparing to Afrikaans, that's right.
Yes. But the primary thing for me of Otto speaking Portuguese is connection of who he is, where he comes from. It's really to do with identity.
Yeah. And tell me, I know there's a big community of Brazilian people in the Gold Coast. Why do you think Brazilians come to Australia?
I think there's a few things. Australia has a very generous student visa scheme. So students that come on a student visa, they can work legally 20 hours per week. And that is very attractive because a lot of the Brazilians that come, they also need to work to support themselves, right? So that's one plus. And there's also weather and lifestyle that is very, very similar to Brazil in terms of it's hot, it's warm, people are open. There's the beach lifestyle, which is very much in Brazil. So it's very attractive for those reasons.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, the lifestyle is very similar, the outdoorsy kind of
Exactly.
enjoying life and grabbing it, and sport is a big thing. I know the soccer is on at the moment.
Yeah, it's surfing. Like for example, Canada is a big destination as well, but Canada is cold, but you can work in Canada for some student visa category. But here in Australia, if you study English, you still can get a work permit, which is different from other destinations. And that's also very attractive because a lot of the Brazilians that come to Australia, the first point of studies is English language. And then they extend their visa into other disciplines.
Yeah. Okay.
Different from South Africa.
So you came as a student on a student visa. How did you then progress into being a permanent resident? Are you a citizen? I don't even know. Are you a citizen?
Yeah, I'm a citizen. I got married. So I was in a relationship for a very long time. So that allowed me to so that was more that path. I was very young when I came. So I was doing my university here. So life kind of developed on those first, when you're 20s and early 30s. So whatever it's meant to be happening in your life on that stage happened to me in Australia.
Okay. So you went from a student visa to a partner visa, is that right?
Yes, I went to a student visa to a partner visa.
And does Brazil allow dual citizenship?
Yes.
Okay. That's often something that people struggle with because some countries don't allow dual citizenship, and then it's a very hard decision. What do you do?
It's a very hard decision. How about South Africa?
South Africa does allow it, yes, but you have to apply for it before you take on the Australian citizenship. So there's an actual process involved. I've never heard of anybody being not allowed to take on the dual citizenship after their application, but it is an actual process that you have to do. And if you don't apply, then the theory is that you lose, or the rules are that you lose your South African citizenship automatically when you take on your Australian citizenship.
Yeah, and that's not ideal, right? Because you want to have those options always at the table, and also the option for your children to have, because it's very handy to have multiple passports.
Yeah, especially if you want to go and visit your family. And
exactly.
Like you. So you say you go often back to Brazil. What do you miss the most about Brazil, apart from friends and family? Because I always say to the people that I talk to, the migrants, you will always miss your friends and family. Even if you just move within your own country, you're going to miss your friends and family. So that aside, what do you miss the most about Brazil?
Really, I like the vibe. I like the openness of people. Like the music, the emotions. I like that because I love but can be exhausting too, right? But I like, because Australian, it's very, in terms of energy, it's very lean. It's nice. It's Australia, Brazil has more those peaks,
ups and downs,
like ups, and it's very energetic, it's very dynamic. So I like that. I miss that, but it's not, I don't know, I miss. That's one of the things I like, but I also can't like coming back here.
Does this feel like home, or does Brazil feel like home?
I know Australia is my home, no doubt.
Yeah. So when you come on the airplane and you get off and you show your Australian passport, you're like, yes, I'm back at home. It's got that.
Yeah, but it's also, I always feel as well, you might relate to that, Chamonix. When I go, because it's a completely different reality in Brazil, right? And I always say, I go in this aeroplane, it's like I'm put into this travel tunnel, and I'm spitting the other end with a completely different reality that I equally belong. Like, so it's not that when I'm in Brazil, I feel that's not my home, that's not where I belong there. I'm my family, I grew up there, I know how to drive, I know how to go to places, I know I'm that, but I'm here too.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
but in terms of where my life is constructed, my life has been constructed here. That's where my house is. That's where, my kid goes to school. That's where my bank account is. That's where my job
That's
is.
important.
Yeah, that's where my job is. That's where my role is. So that's where my life has been constructed here. But
Yeah.
I equally belong in terms of my feelings and identity to Brazil.
Mm. And please tell us, what do you do for a living, your job?
Well, I run a platform called Mosaic Play. We are global, but we're very niche. We send the students from anywhere to anywhere, but specialize in the creative industries. So we represent top schools from now over the world in disciplines like digital media, gaming design, virtual effects, 3D design, 2D design, photography, music, performing, audio, architecture, anything to do with the creative industry, which is very, very interesting because the creative industry worth $2.2 trillion. Gaming alone is bigger than the car industry in the US and Japan combined.
Wow.
So people kind of don't realize the size of that industry and also the growth in terms of employment in this industry. The creative industry has been growing on average to 10 to 15% fast, according to the last Deloitte's report, faster than traditional industries. So what we do, we help creatives, we help the next generation of creatives in getting the right schools all over the world.
Well, as you say, it's growing so fast, and I think one of the reasons is the computer just cannot copy that creative side of a person's brain yet, as well as it can copy many of the other things that we teach it to. So analytical and those kind of structural things is easier to teach a computer. So artificial intelligence can take over that much easier, but the creative aspect is much harder to teach a computer. And so I believe that's why creative thinking and out of the box thinking is so important for the future, that
Correct. And that combined with the growth of the need of creative tech, say, for example, gamification, it's no longer limited to gaming design. Every industry, every business that you think on has some level of gamification embedded in the business model. So gaming alone could be only this version. Game alone could be one area of, could be a full-time job of what we're doing. Another side of it, it doesn't matter if you look at historically, if there is any recession, an industry that always grows and it's always very stable is entertainment. And with the growth of streaming, production has become a really, really growing industry. So Bollywood alone is much bigger than Hollywood now, that industry in India. So we've seen the development of those industries in emerging markets as well. And so that is, there's that in behavior and changes.
Do you do you help a lot of students from India? Where are your markets from mostly?
Yeah, great question. We are global, right? So, but two of our key head office, back offices is in Colombia, based in Colombia. That's where our digital team is, our marketing team. We have a lot of admin back staff in Colombia, because in Colombia we service North America and Europe. It's Latin is an important market for us, and another big market we have is South Asia. So India is a very big market for us. India is one of the young population in India, it's growing exponentially, opposed to China, because we've seen the number of young
Yeah.
people in China is really declining as an impact of the single child policy. So it is a very prominent market for us that is with a very large emerging middle class.
Yeah, yeah. And where do they typically go to study then?
Well, Australia is, look, the top three destinations in the world. The UK is a very strong, Canada. For us, Canada is a very strong destination because top schools in digital media, which is gaming, visual effects, 3D design, and it's a very strong area of employment. But Australia is a very important destination as well. We have contract with the key universities and college in this area. And you will see, and you can talk to that more than me, Chamonix, you will see a lot of those disciplines are part of the migration list. So it should, like if you get a qualification in those disciplines, especially around creative tech, you can then get enough points to apply for permanent residency in Australia. So there is parts of those disciplines that are also a migration pathway. And that's true for the UK and Canada as well.
Right. Okay.
So Canada, UK, Australia, and US not as well. But there is emerging destinations. For example, I just came back from a business trip in Germany that we got a contract with excellent schools in Germany. We're seeing an emerging trend to alternative destinations like Germany, because the top private schools, universities in Germany, they teach in English. They generally cheaper, and they have a very strong migration pathway incentive. So it's interesting. We're seeing, but no way compared to Australia. But Australia is still a very good opportunity because there is top universities in the world. A strong links to migration depend on the department, on the segment you want to study. Yeah, and it's a great place to live.
It is a great place to live, and as you have, been living here for a long time, what do you enjoy the most about living in Australia?
The safety. It's safe. It's great. It's a great place to raise children because it's a safe place. And then you have also great infrastructure in terms of health and education. This is very important. So it's an easy place to live. And I love the freedom here. I love the fact that you are free, the fact that I don't know, growing, I think it's probably similar, Chamonix, and the people that are watching, growing up in South Africa, growing up in Brazil, there is also that issue of safety on the back of your mind, right? When you get in your car, when you get out of your car, where you're going, how your children are moving around, there is that level of concern there. Whereas here, we don't. I mean, of course, you need to look what's happening around you, but it's a very safe place.
Yeah, it's very, very.
I love that.
And and opportunities here are so plentiful. There's just, if you work hard and if you really try your best, essentially, then I don't see why people won't be successful in whatever ventures they do.
Exactly.
It's based on merit, and that's the thing. Whereas, unfortunately, back in South Africa, I'm not sure in Brazil, it's not always based on merit. There's a lot of politics in the background as well that happens, which makes it really hard for people to achieve their best life. And so I agree with you. Just being in this country is a really great place to raise children. But it doesn't mean we can't go back and go and visit and still show them our cultural roots and how our families live over there and what they do. What's the first thing that you do when you take Otto back to Brazil? Where do you go?
Oh, I normally go home, like my hometown and my family. We have a farm, as well. So we normally go to the farm and ride horses, spend time with cousins. It's really about family and hanging out and lots of eating. Lots of eating involved. So you basically hang out with people and eat.
Oh, love it. Do you cook Brazilian dishes here in Australia?
No, they're very complex and they're very carbs heavy. We eat very differently here home.
What's your main carbs that you do eat in Brazil? Is it rice?
Rice and beans.
Rice and beans.
Rice and beans every day. There's rice and beans, 2 types of meat, salad, vegetables. It's just like all of that food, and it's just like, oh my God, what's
Oh, sounds good.
Dishes?
Not
me.
very good. When are we going back to Brazil? I want to go eat with you.
Oh yeah, lots of eating. My goodness. Yeah, for sure.
And
I just want to pick up on a point you talked about, plentiful, right? Yes. And I think different from South Africa in a way is people, regardless of the roles, even if you are on a blue collar role here, you can have a decent life. Whereas it's challenging, I think, when you go look at South Africa, maybe in Brazil for sure, blue collars role, even if the person works very hard, but they sometimes just don't make enough to have a decent life. They don't have that support, like a structured health system, a structured education system. And this is what I like here in Australia. Everyone have access to those basic of life. So also the equality, the gap in between classes is more, it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not so distant.
Yes, that's true. It's very true. I'm not sure how it's in Brazil, but often in South Africa, one of the first questions that people ask you when you meet new people is like, what do you do? And what car do you drive, essentially? Or, what street do you live in, kind of thing, because social status is a very big thing. And in Australia, I don't know if you've encountered the same, it's very different. People will be friends with you often for a long time before they really actually know what you do or what car you drive.
Yeah, I think Brazil is even more complex than that. Like, for example, here in Australia, if you are a lawyer and you are a plumber, you guys go for surf in the end of the day and go for beer in the pub. In Brazil, those two people, they don't even meet. They don't live in the same part of the city. They don't like the same type of music. They don't eat the same food. Their kids don't go to the same school. Like their lives doesn't even meet. So that's, that is a key difference.
Yes, and here it's all blended.
It's all blended.
Yeah, that's right.
But that distance, it does exist. You say, oh no, it doesn't exist. It does exist.
Yeah, but it's much less obvious.
But that distance is not so wide.
Well, it's very common here to see the guy who mows the lawns live next to the doctor, lives next to the engineer, lives next to the hairdresser, lives next to the person who do cleaning, have their own cleaning business. All of those are just mixed, and it's because labor is very expensive in Australia, and
it's very expensive.
And even if you do a manual, like a hand type of work, like a work where you work with your hands, building or anything like that, traditionally in South Africa, those kind of occupations would be paid less. Whereas here in Australia, they make a fortune. They do really well.
That alludes to my point before. They still have a decent life. Whereas, in South Africa, Brazil. So this is one of the things I really like about living here.
Yeah. What does your typical weekend look like?
Chauffeuring my child around, like conducting Mr. Otto, basically. Like there's always a sport going on, so really around sport, or then meet up with a friend and go to the beach. Summertime, we are very outdoors family. We love spending days on the beach. And so we normally go to the beach. The boys takes the board and we just camp there for the day. We like going out for meals. So we're just out and about in nature.
And you've lived in Sydney as well, and now you live in the Gold Coast. How do the two compare for you?
Well, I mean, I love Sydney. Sydney's great. We lived in Manly, which is a very lovely part of Sydney. It's in a beautiful beach. It's in the northern beach. It's very, very nice. It's gorgeous. But we were open for change in living in a smaller place. And the real estate in Sydney is extremely expensive. So the value for money for what you get here in the Gold Coast compared to Sydney is incredible. So we wanted to live in a bigger place. We didn't want to have a massive mortgage that impact our lifestyle. So making that move was very good for us because we still have the lifestyle we want. The Gold Coast has a lot to offer, because as I said, we're very outdoors, but there's a lot of things to do around. We're 45 minutes from Byron Bay. There's so many things to do around here. And there is a airport in the Gold Coast that in 1 hour we are in Sydney.
And it's not that expensive to fly there either.
It's not that expensive, especially if you are planning yourself. And it's not like, even just to put things in perspective, when I go to Sydney, I park my car at the airport and I pay $45 for 3 days. That's basically what you pay for 2 hours in parking your car in Sydney airport.
Wow.
So things are very accessible. And I think raising kids here in the Gold Coast, it's very good because the city has a lot to offer. Of course, I miss my friends. I have a lot of friends in Sydney because I lived there for 25 years, 26 years. But then they come and visit. It's not that far. It's not easy. It's not hard. And I often go to Sydney for work as well.
Clearly, your English language classes that you came for over in the beginning when you asked your parents to send you to Bondi Beach to go for English has paid off because you speak English very well. Do you find yourself thinking in English or in Portuguese?
I think in English, but both. Sometimes I dream in both. Sometimes I dream I'm translating for someone. Like I have had dreams like that. It comes natural to me now because it's been a long time. So I still have an accent, which I'm proud of. It's part of my identity. But yeah, it comes to me naturally.
Well, your partner also has an accent.
Everybody has an accent.
Exactly right. But, even though it's English speaking originally, it's still an accent. It's like,
Exactly. I remember once I met someone, an Australian person, and they said, "Oh, you have a very strong accent." And I said, "Oh, you do too. You sound very Aussie too." And he's like, "Oh, me?" I said, "Yeah, everyone has an accent." And then it was like that realization that was like, "Oh yeah, I also have an accent." Yes, you do. You have an Australian accent. How's that?
I love the accents, and Australia, in my view, has been really accommodating towards people with accents because we realise because I see myself as Australian as well. I've been here 18 years. We realise that Australia is made up of accents. It's made up of people from all over the world, and I'm so thankful for that because I love going down the road and buying my Mexican or my Chinese or my Thai food or my whatever because it's just so yum. And if we didn't have a country that's made up of all these beautiful different cultures, we wouldn't have had all these gorgeous cuisines. And I wouldn't have met you, for example, because we're both migrants and
yeah,
we have interesting backgrounds.
And that's what it colors life. Like, it really, can you imagine if we were just all the same? We sounded the same, we drove the same cars, we had the same clothes on. We've both got white on, by the way, today.
Yes, look, it's interesting. I saw, I think on the census, last Australian census, and it stayed with me, that 25% of households in Sydney speak other language than English when they go home.
Yeah, very, very big proportion.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's been wonderful. You are our first, shall we say, non-South African migrant guest on the show.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Awesome.
And I'm so stoked that it's one of my best friends. So thank you, Gizelle. It's been lovely to chat to you. And anybody who wants to get in touch with Gizelle, we'll have her link below the video if you want to find out how you can go and study in the creative industries in some of the best places in the world.
Yeah, and also, and we work with UTS, we work with University of Tasmania, we work with with Torrens, Griffith University, QUT. We work with the top universities in Australia, as well as some really interesting independent colleges. So we can really help you guys in finding a education path.
Yes, absolutely.
Come over here, come
over.
on.
Yes, and I think an important thing to mention is if you use Giselle's company to help you find a position in Australia to study, it doesn't cost you any more than it would cost you if you were going to go directly through.
I know it's full of it's no charge for the student. Our revenue model comes from the universities, so we provide your assistance for your enrollment, visa pathways, and so forth, and there is no charge.
Exactly. So you only can win through this by using them, and they've got all the knowledge and the networks in place. So please reach out to them. It's an amazing opportunity, and come to Australia, because Australia is the best place to be. I know I'm prejudiced because I love this place, but you won't stay. Thanks, Gizelle. Enjoy the day, and I will see you a little bit later.
Yeah, I hope so. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching today's episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you will come and join us inside Migration Made Easy, which is going to close its doors pretty soon in the next few days. So if you want to make sure that you are in with the most comprehensive program where we help you plan, apply for, and make the move to Australia without struggling to know where to start or if you even qualify, and we make you go from a zero to a migration hero, hop onto chamonixtv.com.au/now in capital letters, the now, and you will get all the information that you need on how you can join us. Make sure, as I said, you do that within the next few days because doors will be closing very soon. Thanks for watching today's episode and for coming back every week. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you will hit the subscribe button so that you are notified when our next episode is released. All right, my friend, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you had fun, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and then it'll make sure that you never miss a thing. I'll see you same time and same place next week. Bye for now.